Alright, and we're back for another painting tutorial. And this one, we're going to be painting the Breaka-Boss on Mirebrute Troggoth. What a mouthful. But, regardless, here we go. We're going to start with Spacewolves Gray. And this is going to be for the skin of the Troggoth, not the skin of the Orc riding him, the Kruleboyz riding him. Just the skin of the Troggoth. We're going to come back and do some different skin tones on him, specifically on his belly and under his arms and stuff, but just to start off, we're going to use this Spacewolves Gray to get a nice kind of neutral bluish gray color on him. And we're going to try to be careful to not hit too many spots of anything else. I'm not sure exactly what colors things like the fur and stuff are going to be on him, but if we want to use contrast paint later, we need to not get this color all over it. So I'm just making sure when I'm putting this on that I'm doing one body part at a time. If I do like half this leg and then go somewhere else and then do the other half, we'll get a really nasty line down that body part where our contrast started to dry and then got a second layer of it. So we want to make sure to do the whole thing all at once, and this model is nice because it's neatly separated for us from with the loincloth here and the straps going around him. We have nice segmented body parts that we can just work on one at a time. So yeah, I'm just gonna do this all over this guy, and then I'm going to let this dry thoroughly because we're going to then come back and do his underarms and belly with a bit of stippling. So I'll finish this up, let it all dry, and we'll come back and do that. Alright, and we're back, and our gray/blue is all dried. Now we're going to move on to Ushabti Bone, as well as a big ol' soft brush. But I will say, because it drives me up the wall when tutorials skip steps, even however minor they might be, on all this fur here that I got a little bit of this blue on, I just touched it up with some brush on Wraithbone, because I think I'm going to do that a pretty light color, and so I didn't want to have that blue on there. So all these little bits that had a bit of blue on them, I just touched them back up. So now, like I said, Ushabti Bone, and I got a paper towel here so I can get some of the paint off my brush. And I'm just going to take this, dip it in there, and then make sure the paint is nice and worked into the bristles, but the brush isn't soaked completely. And then we're going to start stippling this in. So first we're going to get his kneecaps. And it's kind of up to you how much or how little you want to do. I think about like that looks pretty good. And we'll do his other one. Might need to reload our brush at some point. That looks pretty good. Get some more paint on our brush here. And then we'll do up here. And then work our way down. More paint. These bristles, this big soft brush likes to absorb paint quite a fair bit, so just keep reloading pretty often. And we just want to make sure to get the back of his bicep also down in here. And then carry this down here. Like that. And you can really just keep stippling as much or as little as you want. The more you do, the more of a blend you'll eventually achieve. But that looks about right to me. Then we're going to do the chest. And this is going to get on, obviously, on parts of the miniature we haven't painted yet, but I think it's going to be a light enough color that our contrast, if we use any contrast on these bits, it will just go right over it without any problem. Just want to make sure that I don't leave any blue down in these recesses. I want to make sure that I get all that solid white coat here. And I'm going to go all the way up underneath his chin here. And sort of up the side of his neck and up the side of his face a little bit here. Just like that. He's not glued onto his base yet, so he's a little wiggly, but I need to be able to do his base without him getting in the way, so that's why that is. So then, again, want to make sure to get the blue out of here. And then bring the stippling over about to where his nipple is. Somewhere around there. That looks good. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do it to... I might do a little bit under his legs, but I'm going to do this other arm. We'll let that dry completely, and then come back and do the next step. Alright, so our Ushabti bone is mostly dry. It's still drying in here, but we're not going to worry about that right now. We're going to move on to another step, and I'll be honest, this step may not work. I only have one of these. I'm not going to reprime him if it doesn't. So we'll just have to live with the consequences. We'll see. So I'm going to take some Akelian green here, which is really... or Akelian green. It's really more of a blue color than a green. And what I'm going to do is... I'm going to show you here. So if I just take my brush in this color and put it on the paper, or on the paper towel there, you can see it's quite dark and crazy saturated. So now, if I take my brush, put it in this ink here, then dip it in the paint water, and then come here, you can see that it's much thinner. I might even go couple rinses in the paint water. And there, now you can see it's even less desaturated. Or more desaturated? More desaturated, yes. So what we're going to do is we're going to try that on this miniature. Here we go, and we're going to do this on the upper parts of him here. Probably not on his face, probably just on sort of his shoulders and his back here. So we'll see. So I'm going to get that, rinse a bunch of it off, and then just come in here like this. And kind of push forward. I don't want it to be super saturated everywhere. I just want... In fact, I'm going to get some more water on my brush now and sort of blend it out down his shoulders. Grab some more of this. I'm going to grab some more water and just keep carrying this color out. We are getting blue on some parts that we'll have to touch up in a bit, but that's okay. Just gonna grab, again, just gonna grab some more water and just work this color down the back of his arms here, down to his elbows, just like that. And then we'll work it up here. And we just want to make sure that we don't have this color wicking down like it's trying to do here onto our Ushabti bone that we did earlier. Just gonna grab it and make sure it stays up on these shoulders. So I'll just keep doing this, keep wicking away any color that tries to get away from us. And, yeah, we'll see how that comes out in the end. But I'll let that dry, and then we will come back and do the next step. Alright, we're back, and our Akelian green is drying. I'm not sure I really like it, to be honest, but once the whole miniature is done, we'll see how it turns out. Like I said, it was an experiment. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Now we're going on to Snakebite Leather, and that's going to be for all the fur and stuff on his loincloth. And we're going to do the gut plate here in a non-contrast paint, so we don't have to worry about getting this on that, which is always nice. We do need to worry about getting it on the skin, though, since our skin is basically done now. So we're just going to move pretty slowly and make sure to not get it on the skin. A couple little spots here. There we go. And when you're doing this, also make sure to get inside the mouth here of the gut plate, because that is part of the loincloth. Although you could paint it as part of the gut plate, I suppose. I'm going to choose to paint it as part of the loincloth, though. But it is, of course, your miniature. If you're following along, you feel free to do whatever you want. So I'm just going to keep doing this, making sure to be careful of the skin. If you mess up and get some of this brown on the blue part, my suggestion to you would be to paint that area with Wraithbone, and then put your contrast paint back over it. If you get some of this on the white part of the skin, like say you're doing it up here and you slip onto the belly or something, then even though we stippled originally, I would just go in and just paint on Ushabti bone over that mess up, and I don't think anyone will be able to tell the difference. So yeah, I'm going to finish this up, and then we'll come back and do the next step. Alright, and we're back with our Snakebite Leather all finished up on him. And now we're going to do all the wood that's on this guy. So that'll be the clubs on him, as well as the this like back pole there. And I guess we'll do what the auric on top of him is holding as well. May as well. It was kind of not really on purpose, but sort of absent-mindedly only painting the mount first, and then I was going to come back to the rider. But since we're doing the wood, no sense not to just do it all at the same time. And I finally found my color, so I can stop rambling. Gorgrunta Fur is what we're going to use on this. It's the same color as all the wood of my Kruleboyz. So we're going to go ahead and do that. This should cover over the blue that we accidentally spilled on this when we were painting the skin. Absolutely no problem at all. And again, this club is nicely segmented for us, so we're going to paint up to that first band of iron or whatever, of metal there, and then stop. And then go to another spot. And this is just so we don't get any tide marks where our contrast starts to dry, and then we come back and we overlap it slightly, and that causes there to be two layers of contrast in a spot, and so you'll get a very defined line where you don't want a defined line. So then we'll go to the next band here and just paint the wood in between these bands. Go all the way around like that. And then we'll do the end. Making sure that if there's overhang, like under this piece of metal here, you get all the way under that. Nothing like turning your miniature and all of a sudden seeing a patch of pale white primer to ruin your miniature for you. Of course, always fixable later if you do make that mistake, but it's always a good feeling when you're done with a miniature, and so to then realize you aren't done because you have to go back and fix some mistakes, always a mood killer, at least for me. So like I said, I'm going to do this club this way, and then I'm going to do the back pole here, the seat that this guy's sitting on. Oh, there's actually a bunch of wood in the seat itself, so I'll do that as well. And then I'll do the spear for the auric, getting all that as well. So once that's all dry, I'll come back and we'll do the next step. Alright, so we're back and all our wood is all dried up. Again, I used some Wraithbone, some brush on Wraithbone to do a couple touch-ups where we got some of the wood color on our cloth, which we're about to do. So for this, we're going to use 4 colors. We're going to use Cygor Brown, Snakebite Leather, Fireslayer Flesh, and Snakebite Leather. We're going to use this to... Basically how I paint my dudes here is that I use a different color on each panel or each flap scrap, whatever you want to call it, of leather. So I'll just pick a piece, say this one, and I'll paint this in with Cygor, and then the piece next to it I'll paint in with, say, Skeleton Horde, and then the piece next to that I'll paint in with Fireslayer Flesh, and we'll just continue on down the line there until we run out of leather panels. In this case, I'm painting the saddle right here, so this saddle will be all the same color on both sides, so I'll do that real quick. There we go. And I think this is the last bit of contrast paint we're going to use. We're actually going to use some contrast paint on the skin now that I think about it, but it's after we put a color on it. So it doesn't exactly count. But in any event, I'm just going to do this, paint in the saddle, and then just grab my next brown, pick another scrap of leather, paint that in, pick another color, pick another scrap of leather, paint that in, so on and so forth until all the leather's done. So I'll come back once I've done all that, once it's all dry, and we'll move on to the next step. Alright, and we're back, and so as you can see, the leather is all done on him. He doesn't really have, like, let me grab another dude here. Like this guy has, and a bunch of them have all different patches of leather like this that are all sewn together. He doesn't really have anything like that, so I just did, I did this in one of the colors, that in one of the colors, that in one of the colors, and so yeah, not as much opportunity for the technique I've been using, but nonetheless, here we are. We're going to use two colors in this step. We're going to use Genestealer Purple for the faces on him. I should say the armored faces, so that'll be the gut plate here, and the little gut plate on the orc riding him. And then we're also going to use Mephiston Red, and that's going to be for the cushion here on his back. So we'll start with that. Nice, easy Mephiston Red coat on this cushion here. We just want to make sure not to hit any of the contrast paint we've already done. All these, all the like straps and stuff on him, we're going to do in a layer paint, so we don't have to worry too much about that. We'll get those next, but if we get red on them, it's no big deal. Make sure to get all the way up to the edges here. And up to here as well. Excellent. And then make sure not to hit the blue. Get as close to the edge as you're comfortable with without hitting the blue. It is on the back of the miniature, and it's kind of under some other stuff, so if you don't get right up to the edge, it's probably not the biggest of deals. For our tabletop quality that we're going for, no one will probably notice nor care. Alright, so that's that. Now we're going to switch to... Oh, I missed a spot right here. There we go. Now we're going to switch to our Genestealer Purple. And this is going to be for any armor that has faces on it. So it's just the two gut plates on this guy. Some of them have, some of the Kruleboyz have shoulder pads that have faces on them also. But in this case, it's just these two. Didn't rinse my brush well enough the first time, so I got a little red in my purple, but solved that this time. This will probably take 2 coats to do this. The Genestealer Purple doesn't like to cover over this Wraithbone primer very well. It can sometimes be a pain. But, nonetheless, I'm going to put the first coat of this on both this gut plate and this gut plate in here. Then I'll wait for that to dry, do a second coat, and then we'll come back and do the next step. Alright, so we're back, and our purple is just quite about dried. So we're going to go on to T'Challa Lilac now. And we're going to put this on the high points of these two faces. And I'm just going to kind of stipple it on. Kind of tap it in like it's maybe been hand painted by these, by the Kruleboyz. So I'm not trying to get perfect lines here. Just trying to put it in, like I said, on the high points of this face. So this sort of like fake cheekbone here, and then on this part around the eye. Then I usually come down along the lips as well. Just so kind of, I'm not exactly sure what I'm trying to replicate with it. It just kind of looks like maybe they've added some war paint or something to these shields, or to these gut plates. Normally they're shields. And then I'll do a little bit on the lip here. Bottom lip. Then I'll do the same thing up here. This one is much more obscured, but I'll just do it real quick. Just get a couple of the high points here. That looks about right. So there we go. We'll let that dry. And actually, while we're here, no, yeah, I'll let that dry and then we'll come back and do the next step. Alright, so our next step is going to be Morghast Bone. Give that a good shake. And that's going to be on all of our straps and rope or whatever this stuff is here. I'm actually going to do it, start down here. And all these bones that are held up by this string or whatever it is here, I'm going to paint them in this color too, and then we'll come back and highlight them with a bone color. But doing them, base coating them first with this color, as well as not having to pick out the string and rope holding onto them, will also help differentiate them from the color we used on the skin, because it will actually be the same color, but it'll have different undertones, so hopefully it'll look slightly different. We shall see. Make sure to get that little bit there. These, and then make sure to get the backs of these. It's always something. I was talking earlier about how it sucks to finish something and then realize you aren't finished. The back side of things like this is often what I will find that I've forgotten to do. And then you gotta pull several paints out again and figure out what order you did it all in, and it's just a nightmare. So, I'm trying to avoid that here. So he's got some, like, I'm not exactly sure what, some stitching or something falling out of his pouch here. Just get that. And then we're just going to go through and get all of these ropes and stuff that are sort of lashing his armor on him and holding the dude on top and all that. So I'm just going to go through, make sure I get a good solid coat of this Morghast bone on all of it, and then we will come back and we're really getting down to it now. Only a couple more steps to go. So yeah, I'll be back shortly when this is all dry. Alright, so we've got all our rope and stuff blocked in, and now we're going to go on to the final step of the purple, and that's going to be Magos Purple. And we're going to put this all over the purple, but then right after we do, we're going to just take our finger and rub it off the highest points here, so it doesn't pool onto the lighter purple. So I'll show you what we mean here. Just going to get it all over the purple first. Like this. Just want to get it settled down into all the recesses. Make sure we have a nice shaded surface. Like that. And then we're just going to take our finger and rub like that. So it comes off of these lighter purple areas, but stays on the darker ones, just like that. We're going to do the same thing up here. Might be a little harder to get our finger in there, so we're just going to rinse off our brush and then drag it across the surface, wiping our brush off as we go. I suppose I should stay on camera for this. There we go, and then do the same thing on the other side. There we go. So then we're just going to make sure that all of the purple around here has a nice shading of this purple. And there we go. So we'll let that dry, and then we'll come back and start blocking in some of our final colors. Alright, and we're back with our purple still drying, but we can move on because we're going up to the orc now. We're going to use auric flesh to base coat his skin. We're going to use some contrast paint over the top of this afterward, but for now, we can just go in and base coat it green. And this doesn't cover the best, but you're probably still safe with one coat if you're going to follow this this skin recipe that I'm doing, because the green contrast paint that we're going to do over it will hide any of that, hide any of the kind of thinner areas of paint. But if you just want to be safe, 2 coats definitely wouldn't hurt. Just make sure to get all the pieces of his skin here. Just being careful not to bump anything that we've already done. And the only reason I don't do this first, a lot of people paint skin first on miniatures, it's just because using the contrast paints first means that I can be a lot more messy, and then come back to the layer paints and just paint over the spots of contrast paint that I missed. Doing it in reverse would mean that we had all these contrast paint mistakes over the top of our layer paint, or it would mean that we had to be a lot more careful, thus slowing down the paint job. I'm all about quick results, or quick-ish results anyway, so that's what I like to do. So I'll just finish blocking in this skin here. We'll let that dry, and then we'll come back and probably block in the metal, which I believe will be our last layer paint. Maybe the last layer paint on this guy. Alright, we're back. We've got our green blocked in. And now it's time for probably one of the most extensive steps we've done so far. And we're going to use Iron Hand Steel for this. This is going to be to block in the metal. So, he's got metal all over himself. In all sorts of places. Get our small brush here, and we're just gonna get to it. He's got metal all over the gut plate. He's got it on his clubs. He's got chain here. He's got the tip of his trident with only 2 points, I guess. I don't know. 2-pointed spear, I guess you could say. I'm gonna paint the teeth of the gut plate in with this metal color. There's just metal all over him. Nothing super fancy or specific about this application, just gonna go through and slowly get it all blocked in. I'll come back when I'm all done, and we'll do a couple of just kind of little details that need some layer paint added, and then we will throw on some washes in a couple places and call this guy done. Of course, I'm not going to do the base in this same video. I think I've already done a video on Kruleboyz basing, but if not, I'll take a look, and if not, maybe I'll release one sometime in the next couple weeks. I do have a plan to do a tutorial for, I think, every new Kruleboyz thing. that comes out. Maybe not every single one, we'll see how that goes. But for many of them at least. Hopefully at least the big ones. So yeah, I'm just gonna slowly work my way around the model, making sure that we get all this metal blocked in and we don't have any primer showing anywhere. Once that's all done and all dry, we'll come back and do the next couple steps. Alright, I'm back with all the metal blocked in, and with the hair blocked in using some Thondia Brown. I forgot to hit record before I painted that. But yeah, so we did that and got his hair down his back there in Thondia Brown. And now we're going to keep going with just a couple of little cleanup colors here. So I'm going to take some, let's see what color I want to use. I was thinking about, yeah, I'll just use Ushabti Bone again. And that's going to be for his teeth, the bones on the, like, little, like, trophies or whatever they are down here. I'm just going to highlight them with this color, leaving some of that Morngast bone color underneath. There we go. And then these up here. That'll work. And then his teeth, like I said. Okay, good. His toenails. And his fingernails, if we can see them. I'm not sure if they're visible anywhere. Oh, they are. Right in there. And even though this is the same color as the stippling we did on his body, because it's a different base coat and because it's not stippled on, it's just straight brushed on, they'll have, I think, enough of a different finish that it won't look weird. But if it does end up looking weird, then oops. Alright, anything else we need to grab here? Oh yes, this jawbone that he has as his face mask. Up here. We'll grab that real quick. Nothing wrong with that. And now, I think that's it. So, our next cleanup color is going to be some Cadian Flesh Tone. Right there. And with this, we're going to highlight the orc skin, which will give it some little more life and not feel so kind of strange and green, as well as the ogre, or the troll skin here. So just around his face, right around his mouth like this, down onto his chin a little bit, just like that. There we go. Up here a little bit. And then just on his knuckles here. Just like that. There we go. Alright, and then onto the orc here. Just a little bit on his face. And again, this is just to kind of make him look a little more lifelike, not just pure green. Knuckles are a good place. His elbows and his knees are covered, unfortunately, but we'll go along his toes here. Top of his foot. Elbows and knees are a good place to do this typically, but not on this model, unfortunately. There we go. Alrighty, what else? Just kind of looking around now for other little things we can do. I think we might be done. If I find any other little things, I will grab them and then point them out. One last thing we can do here is I'm going to take... No, I'm not going to take some Wraithbone. I'm going to take some of this. Some Dorn Yellow. And I'm just going to put this on his eye here in the middle of the gut plate. So right in here. There we go. Perfect. Alright, so I will look around and see if there's any other little finishing touches we gotta do. If not, then I will come back and we'll do the washes. Alright, we're back and all those are all dry. And I also put some Cygor Brown on the base just so we can compare them to a darker base, and I have that bright beacon of Wraithbone shining there. We're going to add 3 more colors now. The first is going to be Nuln Oil on all the metal on him. Then Agrax Earthshade on all the wood, the leather, the fur, and the rope. And then Plague Bearer Flesh on the orc skin. We're actually going to start with that. So I'm just going to take this and put it all over the orc skin. Straight over the Cadian flesh tone and the auric flesh we did earlier. This will give us a nice wash over this stuff. Solidify the green as well as dull down the skin color highlights that we used earlier. So just make sure to get that all the way worked into all the nooks and crannies here of the skin. This is honestly, Plague Bearer Flesh is honestly a pretty weak color, so we can be pretty aggressive with how we put it on and not have to worry too much about it getting up on other colors and making them look weird or anything like that. Grab that, spin around, make sure to get in there, wipe that little bit off the silver. And make sure to get it all the way down there, and then have your paint close on you. How annoying. And then just get the leg and the feet. There we go. Alrighty. Just get a little more on this side of the face, I think. And a little more in there. Alright. That should do. So now, I'm just going to show you some examples of putting the next two on. So we'll start with Agrax here. I don't think you guys need to see me shading this entire miniature. But we're just going to take this and put it on these ropes and stuff here. Just like this. Make sure to get into all the nooks and crannies that the ropes have. There we go. And we're also going to do it on all the fur. On all the bones here. And then the other place we're going to do it is on all the wood. It's not strictly necessary on the wood, but I like it. I think it unifies the finish more. Makes the layer paint and the contrast paint have a more similar finish than they normally do. And so I do it. Make sure to cover all that. So I'll do the rest of the Agrax in a second, but now I'll just show you what we're going to do with the Nuln Oil. Same exact process, but just on the metal this time. So we'll just start up here on the chain. We're just going to let it flow into all the cracks and crevices here of the chain. And we're going to do that on the rest of the metal. So I'll do all that. Oh, one thing to point out, I am going to put a little bit of Nuln Oil on each of these little rivets or whatever they are right here, just like that. Just to darken them up a little bit. Give them a little bit of pop. So I'll finish those two colors up, and then we'll come back and probably call this one done, I think. So I'll see you in a bit. Alright, we're back, and I realized I forgot to record an outro, so now you're looking at pictures of him all done. We didn't do any more after the washes that I talked about, the Null Oil and the Agrax Earthshade. You're obviously seeing him with his base all done up. Once I get some more Kruleboyz under my belt and figure out exactly how I want to base them, I will make a basing video about that, so don't worry about that. But yeah, here he is all done. He's obviously just up to tabletop quality. You could go a lot farther with him. You could do all sorts of crazy stuff with him, but for me and my army, this will work just fine. And yeah, hopefully this tutorial was at least somewhat helpful for you. If it was, awesome. If not, well, maybe the next one will be. Thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you next time.